So are you using the wah pedal wrong? Well, I'm definitely not talking about stepping on it with both feet and swaying from side to side type of wrong. I think most of us know how to rock the pedal. I'm talking about complementing the expressiveness of a guitar with the expressiveness of a wah pedal. There are ways to use the wah pedal that are dull and boring, and there are ways to use the wah to add emotion to a solo or even a rhythm track without being boring. In this video, I'll point out what I think is the wrong way to play the wah pedal so you can avoid this technique. Stick around to the end while I share all my thoughts on how you can try different techniques to eliminate those mistakes. Mistakes that are keeping your wah from letting you pour your soul out with raw emotion and feel. I promise you that you're going to like this video. Okay, to bring things into context, let's quickly go back to the 1960s when our very first guitar effects were being invented. One of those is the wah pedal, or the wah-wah pedal. It was invented so that guitarists like you and me could sound like a trumpet. Yes, the very first Vox wah pedals were actually named after Clyde McCoy. Clyde McCoy was a famous trumpet player, and he got his name put on a piece of guitar equipment because of the wah sound that it made. It made the guitar sound like a trumpet using his invention, the trumpet mute. But when many of us think of wah, we think of Clapton and Hendrix, Voodoo Child in the 60s. And then we go to the 70s and we think about funk music. And I think about the theme from Shaft and the song, Let's Get It On. But that's kind of what gets lodged in my head. The way I've always used wah is as a texture and an expression to make my guitar cry or scream. Some of my heroes taught me that through their recordings, like Santana's Hope You're Feeling Better, or Soul Sacrifice, Head, Hands, and Feet, or Steve Vai's Bad Horsey, or Joe Satriani's Surfing with the Aliens, or Slash's Sweet Child of Mine. The list is endless. So let's break down ways I think it's wrong to use a wah pedal and explore some ways to use it better. So let's go to one way that we can still all agree is the wrong way to use a wah. At least if you use this way through the whole entire song. That is when you tap your foot to the beat and you strum a consistent, monotonous pattern of, say, up and down 16th notes without any variation at all through the song. I know our playing is supposed to invoke a feeling to the listener, but anxiety is not something that most people find enjoyable. I know that sometimes we're just playing rhythm, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop being creative. Change your rhythm patterns around both strumming and pressing the wah pedal. Stop being boring. This is a fun and expressive tool. The pedal that I'm using today is simple. It's just a regular crybaby wah. While there are so many variations now, the wah pedal, they will all do basically the same thing. They may allow you to adjust the extreme ends of the wah pedal, and some expand or narrow the band of frequencies that make the wah sound bigger or smaller. So here are some examples of boring use of the wah pedal. And lead. So what are some creative uses of the wah pedal that'll make you a master? Well, one simple way is to make that rhythm pattern more interesting and to think like a drummer, and use the wah to accent the bass and snare hits. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Just use your imagination. Another creative but subtle way to use the wah pedal is to use it as a fixed position filter. Yeah, don't move it at all. As you know, when you step down on a wah, you accent high frequencies, and when you pull your toe up, you accent the bass. So you can find your preferred point that gives you the tone and the resonance that you want, and leave the wah in that mid position or cocked wah tone. This lets you pick the perfect mid-tone peak that perhaps makes your amp feedback in a controlled way. This is the sound of Money for Nothing, or the solo in Play That Funky Music, or Santana's Samba Pati. There are so many songs that use this effect, but it's subtle, and it's hard to put a finger on how they got their sound. Let's listen to an example. Another way to make it more interesting is to vary the timing of muting notes while you're playing the rhythm, and also varying the timing of the wah, like say 3/16 notes with wah up and 1/16 down, and keep changing it at different parts of the song. Listen to this example. Yet another way to break it up is to get away from a consistent rhythm altogether and use the wah to accent certain notes in a melodic phrase and bring more attention to those notes. Let's listen. As a side note, bass guitars can use the wah too. There are specialized bass wah pedals available, but not that many. Now, the main difference between the standard wah and a bass is that the filter sweep range goes much lower on a bass when compared to one made for a guitar. It doesn't sound bad using a standard wah, but that low, deep sound of the bass gets kind of filtered out. So in a pinch, you can use a guitar wah for an occasional bass solo or special effect, for example. By the way, one tip to get the best sound is not to have your bass set to sound deep and muddy, but instead use your treble pickup, if you have one, and play with full treble tone to allow frequencies that can produce the high-end wah effect. So here's my standard crybaby on an Ibanez bass. Here's some examples. Building and releasing tension, or crying and screaming with expression. Our guitar heroes take us on an emotional ride by slowly pushing the toe down on the wah pedal while strumming or playing a solo to build up tension. And then they release tension by slowly moving the pedal toe up, very slowly, calming the chords or notes to a bassy sound. If you combine the releasing and tension and the increasing tension while playing low notes and then high notes that sustain, the tension sounds more like crying or screaming for attention. Combine this with bending and playing from your soul, it elevates your playing to the next level. By the way, my aim is to provide setup and playing tips and mods that will save you time, money, and increase the enjoyment of playing guitar. If you're getting value from this video, I encourage you to please subscribe now by clicking on the little red icon on the bottom right of the screen or below the video or on the round logo at the end so you never miss one of our upcoming videos. So let's sum it up. While there is technically no wrong way to do anything in music, there are certainly pleasing ways to play that convey deep emotions of love, hope, sorrow, and pain. And there are other ways to play that can cause anxiety or boredom. So the guitar is one of the most expressive instruments we have, simply because your fingers touch the strings. You can mute, pinch, bend, dig, or play delicately. Even using a pick, touching the strings makes different expressions with your palm or the angle, hardness, or thickness of your pick. And of course, your other hand is always touching the strings. When you add a wah pedal, you are able to add vowel sounds that take your ability to express emotion to a new level. So if you have a wah, consider how it can add expression to your music instead of adding boredom. It's a great tool, so use it to enhance your playing. So take advantage of it and listen to the pros who know how to draw out those emotions. I hope you have enjoyed this video and consider subscribing if you found it valuable and you want to see more. Share the link with your friends, especially those that play the wah kind of boring. And share it in the comments below your good and bad experiences with your wah pedals or wah pedal players. Who are your wah heroes? Put it down in the comments. And in the meanwhile, enjoy your guitar and don't forget, just keep playing.